Hello and welcome into the Sporting Pod. Along with Tony Allegretti and Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. Coming up today on the pod, a familiar name joins the ranks of USL ownership. A notable signing in the USL Super League and a closer look at the Champions League after the league phase. Champions League phase, the league. And we look forward to what should be a very interesting play-in, whatever we're going to call it.
Yeah.
We're fed by the Bearded Pig, locally owned and operated with locations in San Marco and Jack's Beach. Make sure you swing by the Bearded Pig for great barbecue and great times. All right, I will tell everybody, because part of what this podcast is all about is taking you behind the scenes with what's going on with Sporting Jacks. I will tell you, as we sit here, Tony and I, in the Gemstone Media podcast studio, Mauricio is remote, on location. And we'll tell you more about that in the future. But so you'll hear it; it'll sound a little different with Mauricio. But we've had people on via Zoom before. So we'll start with you, Tony, when we talk about this news story, which is Tyler Adams, the second best player on the U.S. men's national team. Can I say, is that, are we going with that?
That's probably widely believed.
Yeah, behind Pulisic, has joined the ownership group of Westchester SC, the USL League One club that is launching. You have had some interactions with Tyler Adams. When you saw this story, what struck you?
Well, I thought, first of all, it's awesome. I always try to flex when there's fellow USL owners out there.
Right, just let them know.
Yeah,
I'm with you, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing news. It says a lot, I think, about League One. It says a lot about USL. I think it's a huge advantage for Westchester to have that kind of. Unbelievable. So in so many ways, it's just another massive win. It couldn't be more pleased. I got to spend some time with Tyler in Detroit. We opened a mini pitch there.
Name drop.
Yeah, name drop. And he couldn't have been more cooler. Spent a lot of time with me. We talked. I found out later from a mutual friend at the in U.S. Soccer that he mentioned that he met me, which literally made my life. So really just super pleased for him, pleased for the league, pleased for Westchester, really, and he's balling right now too. He's back, so it's incredible.
Playing for Bournemouth, having a great year. Mauricio, I think it's interesting that you have a currently playing professional soccer player having ownership in a league. Obviously, listen, he is not going to anytime soon be playing in the USL Championship. You could see something in the future where, after he is done playing in the Premier League or playing in Europe or what have you, that if he wants to come back home and play, he might play for his own team. But it's an interesting dynamic to have a current player who's, really in the prime of his career owning a lower division soccer team.
It is. I think it's the more remarkable thing is that Tony's a big fanboy here.
Yeah, clearly,
absolutely.
When it's usually the other way around. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Pulisic, he just can't stop talking about you. By the way.
Well, I was telling. So I was on a podcast with Tyler Adams, and he just could not stop talking about Tony Allegretti, which is the most incredible thing, and how he met him.
Please send the link.
He kind of told a very similar story, but just from a different fanboy viewpoint. So I thought that was really interesting.
We'll just have to keep them apart when the USL owners meetings are convened somewhere.
Yeah,
it may not be a big enough room, but no, it is incredible. And Tony, I'll validate Tony's story. We do have a common friend, and within U.S. Soccer, and impromptu, he told this common friend, because he knows he lives in the area, about his meeting with Tony, how excited he was that the USL as a general was expanding, and the vision that we have for the club, and this community impact that we have, which Tyler is very much a huge part of. And I would imagine that his influence in owning a USL franchise near to his home in New York, where he was born and raised, and just to be part of it is going to be a huge community impact. And you're right. And I will argue that if he not have been hurt this last 2 years, really, Tyler Adams has been out for a good part of 18 months. I would argue that he's got a higher ceiling than Christian Pulisic, in the way that people were talking about him as where he was with Red Bull and with RB Leipzig. And he was on his way up to be, a Chelsea, a Man U kind of player. And then he got hurt. He kind of tore his hamstring a few times, and hopefully he still has the way to go. But I think the biggest part of it is that Tyler Adams is in the middle of a highly educated, highly impact soccer environment worldwide. And for him to see the value of owning a USL League One team and putting his money, his face behind it, says a lot about the growth of the game in this country. It says a lot about where the USL is, and we keep seeing more USL League One teams arriving with big ownership. That means that those meetings are happening with promotion and relegation on the table. Like, otherwise, why would you do that? Why would you put in a League One team and not a championship team? So that means that there's League One, championship, potential USL Premier League conversation on those ownership meetings, and that's really exciting.
He's a community guy. When I met him, it was a community event. It was his foundation, right? So he's already really given back big time, and this is just another thing. And I think maybe one of our first podcasts, we talked about how we're going to see expansion in the lower leagues, third division, second division, big time in the States, because there's just that gap, and there's that
appetite's
demand.
there.
Yeah, the appetite's there, and so this is just sort of augmenting that with a massive name.
I do want to point out a couple of other things on this story. One is that this is not the first professional athlete to take an ownership in this team, Westchester SC. Jets backup quarterback Tyrod Taylor is also a part of ownership. And it's not the first time that Adams has had a connection with USL. He and his stepfather, Daryl Sullivan, own USL League Two team, Hudson Valley Hammers, and so he's been a part of that environment. I will also point out that as a player, he played in the USL when the league was slightly different, when that was more directly associated with MLS. When he was with the Red Bulls, he played for Red Bulls 2, which was a USL team at the time. Now all the 2s and Bs have gone on and are being placed in MLS Next Pro. So it's just interesting that this is part of the thing that the ever-changing environment of the United States soccer landscape is fascinating. And when you have people who are involved in that, internationally, seeing the value of it, it's really something. On the radio show on Tuesday night, Mauricio and I, was it on Tuesday night? I think, yeah. We talked about the days are running together, guys. We talked about the promotion relegation and sort of just kind of rehashing it a little bit. And of course, the most accessible touch point for that for American soccer fans now is Wrexham, because you can watch Welcome to Wrexham on TV, and
they got the whole explainer,
and the entire kind of ecosystem of that, and with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, you have some celebrity status with that. But they have worked their way up to League One and are in third place right now in League One, with an opportunity to move up to the championship next year. A couple of years ago, we saw Ipswich move up from League One to the championship, and then the next year, this year, they're in the
year
Premier
before
League.
that, it was Luton.
Yeah,
who
Luton
did the big jump.
Yeah, so the having that environment in the United States, I just do not think it's ever going to happen with MLS being involved. I think there's too much money that has been invested by those owners. They will never want to risk losing that. But to Mauricio's point, having a USL Premier, USL Championship, USL League One, sort of mirroring the English system, Tony, I think is a real possibility. And I think it will be remarkable to see, if that happens, how those two systems work side by side, and if U.S. Soccer is willing to grant a first division status to the USL. I think this NASL lawsuit probably will go a long way to determining how that all plays out.
Yeah, and it could be a blank slate because of that lawsuit, but also because of the requirements, right? So you would have to have certain amount of stadium capacity.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to, and then what happens though if someone gets promoted and they're Tormenta,
right?
Right. So
right.
you have to really kind of think all that through. So it may be an absolute rewrite. If that were to happen,
I agree with you. And Mauricio, I don't know, and I wasn't intending to make this a deep dive breakdown on what has to happen for promotion or relegation to happen in the United States, but it's an interesting conversation. So, from your standpoint, Mal, we know with the U.S. Soccer league guidelines, the specifications, you talk about things like there are some things that are absolutely an obstacle to promotion and relegation, like stadium size, like metropolitan area population,
right?
Which those things, from a business standpoint, could put you can say, well, these are good guidelines in order to have that success. But if you build, like, nobody cares how many people live in Green Bay,
right?
Yeah. Nobody cares how many people live in Jacksonville.
Some of those probably allegedly were put in place to protect MLS, right? To make sure that we don't have that happen. So I mean, let's not fool ourselves.
Well, I think you guys talked about the word rewriting some of the regulations, and I think Tony, you hit a good point. There's a lot of U.S. soccer protection around the MLS, or that has been, in order to really help grow, and that's not necessarily a terrible thing at its infusion. Similar to the U.S. soccer funded the NWSL in its first 10 years to see the women's game grow. And now both organizations should be at a place of independence where U.S. soccer now should be able to take a step back and let their babies, in a way, kind of fend for themselves and allow other kids into the playground, rather than kind of just keep holding on to their little baby. Like, they're grown ups now. Like, it's ready. It's time to let go of the leash. And it's okay that USL and other leagues, and if it's NISA and if it's somebody else that want to partake in this ecosystem, right? Like the fittest will survive, and the ones that aren't will fall away. And I think that's part of this new, it's sport. American sports is about monopoly, and you see that with the NBA and NFL and NHL and MLB. But that's not the case in soccer. Shouldn't be the case in soccer, because the opportunity to expand is so vast. But yeah, there's a lot of layers to it. You can't. I know, Cole. We never want to stay on this topic, but you can't talk about soccer expansion without talking about the possibility of promotion relegation. I think it's probably, those two do not go hand in hand. You have to talk about it in a way.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, I want to remind you that what we're talking about there is largely men's soccer right now. There are two First Division women's leagues in the United States, in WSL and USL Super League. The USL Super League underway right now. They'll get back to their spring season coming up here in about a week or so, and next season Jacksonville will be joining and playing in the USL Super League, and season tickets are now on sale for the 2025-2026 Sporting Jacks USL Super League season. Season tickets start as low as $10 per game for students, $12 per game for supporters, and $15 for general admission. Premium and field side seating is also available. Join the movement by securing your 2025-2026 season tickets today and receive a limited edition inaugural season scarf. This exclusive offer won't last long. Act fast and be a part of history at sportingjacks.com/tickets. And a reminder that you can join us on TV and radio every week. The Sporting Jacks Report comes to you at noon Saturdays on NBC 12 before Premier League coverage, and every Tuesday night at 6, when I remember what day it is, the Sporting Jacks Soccer Hour on 1010XL on the AM side. You can listen live and on demand at 1010XL.com. Speaking of the Super League, there was a very significant signing that took place this week in the USL Super League. Dallas Trinity signed Lexi Missimo, and for those who do not follow college soccer, she is sort of the ultimate Texas women's soccer player. Program leader in goals, assists, and points. Of course, if you're going to lead in goals and assists, you're going to lead in points. 56 goals in her career, 64 assists, the first Big 12 and Texas athlete to have a 20-goal, 20-assist season. That happened in 2023 when she was named the Top Drawer Soccer National Player of the Year. She was in the Futures Camp, along with Avery Patterson, we talked to a couple weeks ago. Guys, the fact that she signs with Dallas Trinity, she's staying close to home. I wonder what your thoughts are on that decision for her, why she made it, and how much of an impact the NWSL getting rid of the draft impacted this, Mauricio, that she was free to choose just like most of the rest of the world, and she chose the USL Super League.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because we could channel this in many different ways, but you're absolutely right. Not having NWSL draft and not having a team that would just hold her rights for good or different reasons, so she'll be limited to go somewhere else, and they'll decide to sign a young player. At the end of the day, she's a fantastic player, but rookies are rookies, and rookies will probably get limited time when they're playing against, what the currently modeled the NWSL, which, have a lot of national team, international players. So Lexi's seen an opportunity to say, hang on a second, I can play professional soccer in my hometown, make money, but actually play and be a marquee part of the program. Now she needs to go in and earn her spot. It won't be given to her, but her pathway now can be completely different than being a rookie on a team that maybe she doesn't get to play as often, or be potentially the hometown star of a new franchise. That's the impact that getting rid of the NWSL draft has. But also, I would say the larger impact is now Super League is coming to your town, right? More women professional soccer opportunities is coming to a town near you. And more of these stories will continue to happen. And this is one of the big ones to highlight because we'll have the same thing in Jacksonville.
Right.
We'll have the same thing in Brooklyn. We'll have the same thing in Lexington. It will continue to propel the growth of the game.
So this is sort of the to try to put this in some context, and how it will wind up potentially impacting what happens here in Jacksonville. This is a move that happens after the senior year seasons are over, so it's happening in mid-season. We talked a lot in the past, Mauricio, about what the player movement in the mid-season break was going to look like. We thought maybe there would be some NWSL players sign. We've seen a little bit of that, not a ton. I didn't anticipate, and I should have, seeing now all these college players are ready to get their pro career started right now. They don't want to wait until the NWSL season starts, which is going to be a little bit after the start of the second half of the USL Super League. But I think this creates a really interesting situation. As you almost have two different scouting seasons now, don't you, for the USL Super League? From a college standpoint, you want to know who's on the radar, and you're scouting them at the same time as you're scouting the pros. But you also have to know, all right, who's going to graduate early, or who's ready to become a pro and maybe continue their schooling on the side. So Florida State, we know that both have terrific programs. Florida State's been unbelievable. Other UCF, USF, whatever. This is a great place to find talent that can come in and as you mentioned, have a chance to play right away.
Well, you're going to have to battle another thing when you're dealing with some of these bigger schools. So if you have early underclassmen that are ready to make the jump or want to make the jump, and some of these larger schools with NIL money, they're making more. And you saw that in women's basketball, that they were staying in college because they have an opportunity to make more money at the SEC schools and the Big 12s than make the jump into women's professional sport.
Mm-hmm.
So now with the price tag of women's professional soccer going up, but the NIL money going up, the new rule that schools would be able to pay them directly, not just through the collective, but now actually directly through the school, it's going to create this bit of at the end of the day, good options for the athletes, but recruitment can't just start at this point at their senior year when they're graduating, they're forfeiting their eligibility, they're exhausting their eligibility. We're actually having conversations, and I won't name names, but we are having conversations with players in college that have sought out representation, that are calling to see if there's an opportunity. They want to potentially look out to start their full professional career, because you might be making money in college, but you're still relatively a college student. You're limited with hours that you can focus on your craft. When you're in a pro environment, that's where your focus is. You can do school on the side, and I'm not saying one or the other is better, but I'm saying if you want to be a pro, you can be a pro in many more situations now. And teams like USL and NWSL will start looking at underclassmen significantly more than they've ever done before, because the draft is not a thing anymore.
Yeah, I have questions flying through my head right now. One of them is, I think with the draft, and in NWSL and MLS, there was no. If you drafted a kid, there was no solidarity payment to their former club, right? Because you pick them up, and I don't know if that was standard or ever happened, but just thinking that through. So if she signed to Dallas Trinity, and she was, from her former Dallas club, did they get or would they get a solidarity payment? That's a question mark. I'll find out next day.
Do some digging.
So I'll do some digging because I don't think it happens MLS, right? So, but then the second thing is, and this is even crazier, but if Sporting Jacks had a prospect that really wanted to finish their college career, they made it to the finals as a junior, could Sporting Jacks do an NIL deal with that player in their senior season, and that player, I don't think it would be a quid pro quo. I don't think you could contract it because that would be, obviously illegal. I don't know if there's anything that's obvious with NIL right now. Yeah, true. So anyway, just thinking out loud, maybe there's creative ways with the messed up NIL, which I think everybody kind of agrees is just Wild West right now, to let people finish their degree. And I agree with Mauricio, though. You can do that. You can finish your degree and be a pro. But just thinking out loud, there may be some hacks out there.
Yeah, that's interesting. Mal, any thoughts on those two things from Tony?
Yeah, it is completely the Wild Wild West. And, I've only been departed from college athletics for 2 years. And it seems like it's a whirlwind away from where he was, and I saw the beginning of the end, in my opinion, beginning of the end of amateur sport in college, which is what college was intended for. And now with not only transfers, now you can transfer 5 times. So what you're going to see is kids are actually transferring to make more money and to get more exposure. And then they're leaving early because there's no draft. And so, yeah, it's a whirlwind. And you're now, as a professional club, you have the opportunity to tap into that. Like you want to be mindful of local players, of their opportunities, and we want to be educated so then we don't ruin anybody's eligibility if they are not ready to be a pro or they don't want to be a pro yet. And maybe for them it's a better opportunity to stay in college. And so we don't want to speak to agents, or we don't want to seek out representation for them because it could still ruin and jeopardize their eligibility. But we need to be mindful of it. Our ears need to be glued in to what's happening. The players, we need to be scouting heavily that environment. And if any of them are ready to come out or have shown interest to come out, it goes back to relationships with coaches. We need to be tapped into what happens with the coaches at all the leagues, college certainly, to understand which players, because they want to promote players. It is a positive thing for FSU to get a player into the pros because it helps with the next layer of recruits coming in. So they're not trying to necessarily retain them if it's the best thing for them is to go. So there's a lot, Tony. I agree with you. Every time we talk about it, my head kind of goes in different directions. Sometimes it's even difficult to organize your thoughts around what's happening in the college environment and how that has a domino effect on the pro. But certainly it's something that it requires a lot of education because you could stumble and you can ruin someone's opportunity.
Yeah, the most important thing is what's best for the family and the players. Yeah,
correct.
Can I just tell you, I'm sitting back. This might be my favorite episode of this podcast that we've done. And I just want to say how fortunate I am to be a part of this, that we're sitting here with a USL owner, a U.S. soccer scout and former college coach. The vast scope of knowledge, interest, and experience that I get to pull from here, and then with Becky Burley as well, former national championship winning coach at Florida, who joins us on TV and radio. We'll have Becky on the podcast again here shortly. I don't know if anybody else at home listening to this or in your car, wherever you are, is having the same feeling as I am right now. But this is some great behind the scenes stuff that I think soccer fans really should enjoy and embrace, and I hope they appreciate it.
It's a lot of fun.
We're also the home for the unofficial Tyler Adams fan club.
That's true, yes, which is additional. So we'll make sure to tag Bournemouth and U.S. Soccer in Westchester in this podcast.
You know who owns Bournemouth? One of the owners of Bournemouth is Michael B. Jordan. He's amazing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Listen.
And there's a connection. Bournemouth, Fidelity, the guy that basically the chairman of Fidelity is owns Bournemouth. So, yeah.
Is that
and Hibs, Foley?
Foley, yeah.
Lots of connections.
Yep. And knowing those connections can be vital. Hey, membership in Sporting Jacks is absolutely free. You don't have to own a soccer club in order to be a part of it. Discounts on Sporting Jacks official club merchandise. You get invitations to exclusive insider events, automatic chances to win special prizes and experiences, and you'll receive the Sporting Jacks monthly email newsletter. Plus, place a deposit on season tickets and receive first access to seats and that limited edition Sporting Jacks founding member pin. Just go to sportingjacks.com to sign up for free. Let's talk Champions League. This is probably going to be a little longer podcast than we usually try to keep it between 20 and 30 minutes, but we've got so much good stuff here, and I went down the rabbit hole of promotion and relegation, so apologies if this takes two different listening sessions for you as you're driving to work and from work or whatever. But as we record this on Thursday morning, there are we're still waiting for the draw for the knockout round, the two-legged playoff for the second group. But we do know that Liverpool, Barcelona, Arsenal, Inter Milan, Atletico Madrid, Leverkusen, Lille, and Aston Villa are all on to the next phase. Teams that we were not sure if they were going to get in that did get into the next round, PSG, Juventus, Man City are all in. I should point out that the Celtic is in, just for those who are curious about that one as well. Sporting and Club Brugge closed out the final two spots. Tony, with this first year of this format, I have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable. Yesterday, obviously, when everyone played, was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I still absolutely don't understand it. But it's good. And one day in 2050 or whatever, I'll have a team in it, and so it'll be even more exciting. But yeah, no, it's pretty awesome. I mean, shout out to Lille. I think they're in like 6th or 7th. They're like they are killing it. Yeah, come on.
All right, let's quickly, Mauricio, if you will give me your pick. Which team that will play in the playoff, so teams 9 through 24, are the most dangerous for the knockout round?
Well, you have to go with, I mean, your easy money is on Real Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
They have the history there, but I don't want to play a bruised Man City, like bruised ego.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that, now that they have some new players, which that'll be interesting, Cole. I don't know if some of the new signings from the window are able to get registered in this next phase based on this new setup.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of teams are bringing new players, and the window closes February 3rd. I think that's the Premier League window. But oftentimes there's a window that you can actually register new players.
Right.
But you would have to think that Real Madrid, they just do this a lot in Champions League. They kind of start slow. They're not really off the gate in the first couple of rounds, and then somehow they just finish. So I would go with Real Madrid. I think they're just a team that you can never count out.
Yeah, I agree on that one, and I think Carlo, his job is on the line, which is
crazy to think about, considering.
Yeah. So I think they're pretty safe money. I picked Atalanta at the beginning, and I'm sticking with them.
They were the top team of the non-automatic advancers, so they've played particularly well. I'll be keeping an eye on AC Milan, mostly because of Pulisic and following to see what happens there, and if he has the chance to really make a moment on that big stage, that'll be something to watch for sure. All right, let's quickly hit the Premier League. What game are you most looking forward to here in the coming week?
Well, since this is the Tyler Adams show, I'm doing Bournemouth at the Cherries facing Liverpool.
That's a big one. Obviously, Liverpool at the top of the table, 6 points clear right now with the game in hand. Mauricio, how about you?
I got Nottingham, Brighton. I think there's two fun teams to watch play. And Brighton is probably just right on outside of that cusp. Nottingham Forest, they're holding strong in third place. So that's the game that I think will bring a lot of excitement.
Coming off a loss as well.
They're both coming off a loss, if I may.
And by the way, Everton, Tony will remind us. By the way, I will also mention that Nottingham, I think, leads the Premier League in games in which they've scored first. and that's been a real key for them this year. I think it's something like 18 times they've scored the first goal, and they've been able to capitalize on that. I'm going to be looking. This is a layup pick for me. Arsenal, Man City on Sunday. This is a game that Man City obviously. I mean, if they can do what they have done lately in the Premier League, all of a sudden things get really tight at the top of the table. It's kind of like Tiger Woods used to be on a Sunday. If he's making a charge, everybody above him knows. Same situation with Man City, Mauricio. If they're making a charge, all the other teams know what's happening at the top of the table.
Yeah, you don't want to be above Man City right now with the way that they're charging. That's a scary proposition, and they did bring in some new reinforcements during the winter break here. Some interesting stories. I can't even try to say his name, but the first Kazakhstanian, or is it Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan born player? See, that shows how much I know. But he's the first player from that country to play as a center back, 20 years old. Played against Chelsea, started the game, and they got some reinforcements, and they're going to be an interesting team to watch. I mean, what a great story that Man City can be a potential underdog this year.
Could you imagine even like claiming that's that's the thing? Yeah, that is, I think right now accurate that is the case.
And it's at the Emirates, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this is going to be a good match.
Yep. All righty. That'll do it for this edition of the Sporting Pod. Again, I love this episode. I hope if you did as well, please share this with your soccer fan friends. Make sure everybody subscribes. The more we get to subscribe, the easier it is to grow and send the message out there as we continue to give you the behind the scenes of what's happening with Sporting Jackson with some great insights.
One thing before we go, I just wanted to shout out McKinney got his cap for Juve, which is big considering like just sort of his journey last year. So, sorry,
that's true.
I meant to bring that up. So,
and by the way, Abdulkadir Kuzanov from Uzbekistan, Mauricio. I've done
Uzbekistan.
Deep dive research thanks to Google. All right, that'll do it for Tony Allegretti and Mauricio Ruiz. I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks for listening to The Sporting Pod.